you've also had another iconic political moment for hip hop where you really stood up for hip hop. Can you take me back to, I believe it was at 94?
94, yeah. Mm-hmm.
94?
1994.
Where you testified in the U.S. Senate?
Yes.
At the time, for
Flew
listeners.
on the Air Force One.
Yep. At the time, for listeners, we were going through, like, hip hop, I would say, quite frankly, was under attack as a newer art form, and people were trying to censor it, and you may
Delores
have
Tucker
seen
was
Delores
really,
Tucker like stomping on some CDs outside of Capitol Hill and going against Tupac and so forth. But you stood up on behalf of hip hop there. Tell me what that was like, especially because at that stage and age, both at that age and stage of life and in your career, to be able to look these senators, some of the most powerful politicians in the face, and tell them, like, no, hip hop is here to stay, and, like, you guys don't need to ban it, don't need to censor it. Can you tell me more about that?
I was 22
experience?
years old. I had just had my first child. 23 years old. I had just had my first child. My daughter was about maybe 2 months old, 2 or 3 months old. We flew to D.C. I introduced Congresswoman Waters to a lot of the artists, Tupac in particular, Snoop Dogg. She wanted to meet a lot of these artists. She wanted to have one-on-one conversations with them. And I introduced them to her. I introduced them to her. We talked about, we sat and we spoke many nights, many days, about music, about the industry, just insight on what was going on. And I wanted to speak. I wanted to talk about hip hop. I just felt like, I was asked, first of all, and I just wanted to speak on it. And not really knowing what I wanted to speak on. I think the more and more I worked on my speech of what I was going to say, I just knew that as a young girl in music, that I didn't want to be censored. I was just thinking of me in particular. I wasn't thinking about the music industry when I was writing. I was just thinking about my community. I was thinking about the fact that we did have a voice. And at that time, there was a lot going on in South Central Los Angeles at that time. So we had a horrible feud with the police department. At that time we had,
you all were the voice of that. The West Coast was really, I think,
we had these battle rams. We had these machines going into the urban community and bashing their homes in, sometimes the wrong homes, and shooting into these homes in what they call the projects. And so to me it was different because NWA, which they wanted to ban, was just the voice of our community. So it was like, how can you ban the voice of our community when no one wants to recognize what's going on in our community? So it was very personal for me why I loved music, and not on a national level. I didn't realize I was speaking for other communities at that time. I was 23 years old. But I just knew that my community, we understood